Hi there. I'm a woman in my 30s, and I've been married for 7 years now. My husband and I started dating in our mid-20s during college, and we ended up getting married in our late 20s, which was relatively early for us. To be honest, for the first couple of years of our marriage, we didn't even consider having children. We were actually using contraception, wanting to wait until we felt more settled in our life together. Since we married young, we wanted to enjoy our newlywed life to the fullest before starting a family, and that's exactly what we did. As we combined our lives and finances, we definitely saw ourselves growing faster together. Around our third year of marriage, as we both entered our 30s, we started planning for children. Until then, we thought it would be easy to conceive and start a family. In fact, my first pregnancy happened in our third year of marriage. However, I miscarried at 3 months, and both my husband and I were devastated by the loss. It was heart-wrenching to say goodbye to our first child so unexpectedly. I even quit my job to focus on trying to conceive again. Despite our efforts, 3 more years went by without any success in having a child. We were too proud to even consider visiting a fertility clinic. This could have easily strained our marriage, but it didn't. My husband has always been incredibly supportive, constantly creating special moments in our everyday life. He would take time off work without telling me to plan trips or buy camping gear, so we could travel all over the country together. I loved it. We visited famous restaurants nationwide and enjoyed beautiful scenery, which allowed us to momentarily forget about our struggles with infertility. But those were just temporary escapes. When my husband went to work, I felt utterly alone, struggling to cope. I sought counseling on my own and was diagnosed with depression by a psychiatrist. I tried to keep my medication a secret, but my husband eventually found out. Despite his unwavering support, my depression did not improve, as the root cause was our inability to have a child. Seeing how much I was suffering, my husband encouraged me to take up woodworking, something I had always wanted to learn since our dating days. He gave me some money to enroll in a class, and I booked a one-day workshop at a local woodcraft studio. For the first time in a long while, I felt genuinely excited about learning something new. The class was a mix of various ages and genders. But what really took me by surprise was the instructor. A young, fit instructor in their mid to late 20s led the class. They made rounds to see how the students were doing with their work, and every time they spoke to me or took my hand to show me how to use a tool, my heart felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. My relationship with my husband had become more of an obligation, with our interaction revolving around timing for ovulation, trying for a baby, and facing repeated disappointments. There was no excitement left in it, leaving me feeling quite drained. However, being around the instructor sparked romantic feelings in me. Despite knowing it wasn't right, my heart and mind reacted before I could stop them, almost as if I had a crush on the instructor. Initially, I had intended to attend the class only occasionally, but I found myself constantly thinking about the instructor. This led me to sign up for a month-long course, which eventually turned into enrolling in advanced classes as well. A bond started to form between us, as I found excuses to contact them for help or questions. One day, curious about how it would feel to meet the instructor outside of class, I asked if I could join them on their trip to buy supplies, suggesting it in a hopeful manner. They agreed, saying it would be fun to explore the market together. I was so nervous about asking them that I spent a lot of time getting ready, picking out my clothes and doing my makeup before leaving the house. That day, we bought supplies and had lunch together, enjoying what felt like a date. The instructor would casually touch my shoulder or hold my hand when we were around a lot of people, and I welcomed these gestures, feeling thrilled by the contact. As these days accumulated, my feelings for the instructor grew. Initially, I thought of it as a simple admiration, similar to how one might feel about a celebrity or actor. But even on days when there were no classes, I found myself missing them, and thoughts of the instructor would sneak into my mind even when I was with my husband, making me wonder if my feelings were more than just admiration. I was incredibly confused by my feelings as well. I couldn't quite define it, but I found myself wrestling with the complex idea of loving two people at the same time. One day, when my husband was away on a business trip and I was left alone at home, I felt bored and impulsively decided to visit the workshop where the instructor worked. I arrived just as they were finishing up a class and starting to clean up. They noticed me and asked, "What brings you here?" Trying to act casual, I said, "I was just passing by and got bored." "Have you had dinner yet?" as I helped them with the cleanup. It naturally progressed to me, suggesting we order some takeout and have a drink together. Since we often had meals together, the instructor readily agreed to my proposal. The instructor mentioned they were currently single. Knowing I was married, it somehow felt reassuring to hear that. Without thinking, I quietly said, "That's a relief." I was shocked at my own words, and so was the instructor, who looked at me wide-eyed. We just looked at each other, not saying anything, until the instructor broke the silence by asking, "What's a relief?" Flustered, I blurted out, "It was just something I said." "It doesn't mean anything." The instructor then asked, "Really? It means nothing?" before finishing their drink. Not knowing how to respond, I just kept looking at the instructor. After finishing their drink, the instructor moved closer to me, and I found myself naturally drawn to them. That night, we ended up spending time together in the workshop. Even after that night, I continued attending the classes. The instructor began asking me to come in an hour early or stay back after class had ended, suggesting we spend a bit more time together. We also went on many dates under the pretext of buying supplies. It felt like the instructor and I naturally became closer. We drove to secluded spots and even visited restaurants. My husband had introduced me to just the two of us. This was during a time when my husband was deeply engrossed in his work, and I had become noticeably happier since starting my classes, so he was very supportive. In a way, I was comfortably engaging in an affair. Then one day, after feeling nauseous while eating, I took a pregnancy test and it came out positive. A doctor's visit confirmed I was 3 months pregnant, which meant the child was definitely my husband's, considering the timing of when I started attending the workshop. When I shared the news with my husband, he was overjoyed. He took me shopping for shoes and bags I had wanted, and even maternity clothes. Although it was still early, from the day he found out I was pregnant, he took over all the household chores, insisting I rest. Despite this, I continued to visit the workshop. Initially, I was just enjoying the dates, worried about possibly having a miscarriage again. As my pregnancy became more noticeable, the instructor started to find it odd. One day, They cautiously asked me if I was pregnant. I was so taken aback that I started crying. Without even understanding my own feelings, the instructor came over, hugged me, and comforted me. After a while, I told them, "This is as far as we go. We can't continue anymore." The instructor silently listened and then nodded in agreement. Honestly, I felt a mix of sadness and longing, so I hugged the instructor first. They accepted it silently. That was our last meeting, and we haven't seen each other since then. As I was leaving, the instructor said, "If you ever need me, for classes or otherwise, please come." I couldn't respond and just went home without looking back. Now, I'm in the final month of pregnancy and about to give birth. My husband is still treating me well, and I'm excited to finally become a mother. Our friends and family, hearing that we're having a child after 7 years of marriage, have been sending gifts and congratulations. I've been so happy that I barely remember the times when I was feeling down, but whenever I pass by the workshop, either with my husband or alone, a pang of longing hits me. It's not just once or twice that I've found myself circling the building, tempted to go in, only to head back home. I wonder what I'd even do if I went. Now that I'm in my final month of pregnancy and showing significantly, part of me doesn't want the instructor to see me like this. It feels like more than just the emotional fluctuations due to pregnancy hormones. Of course, I love my husband, who has been by my side, taking great care of me all this time, but my feelings for the instructor are a different kind of longing. Sometimes the workshop sends out texts about events and course information to its members, and I still receive these messages. Does that mean the instructor hasn't forgotten about me either?